game of life and the hero's journey we all experience. Let's jump in with our host, Dylan Watkins, as he introduces today's guest.
Do you want to find out how to get funded to build a game in one of the world's largest metaverses, if you want to call it that? Duncan Campbell is currently the content acquisition member for Roblox, the community expansion team, a division of the developer relations responsible for the growth of both developers and user communities. He's been in the games industry for over a decade with experiences and partnerships in content marketing, media, community management, and development, having worked at companies such as EA, Ubisoft, and HTC Vive, and more. Now he's helping run the Games Fund at Roblox, a program with $25 million in funding to support developers and studios with their quest to build the next generation of experiences on the platform, a direct effort in publishing the boundaries of the metaverse. So without further delay, I'd like to welcome Duncan.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I'm stoked to get you here, man. I really enjoyed your talk and like the perspectives and everything that you had when we met at the AW conference, right? The Augmented World Expo conference. It was great, man. So I was super inspired. I love what you guys are doing over there. So I just figured get on the podcast, have a chat with you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It was a great panel discussion at AWE, and I was fortunate to meet you, and I'm happy to be here.
Cool, brother. Yeah. And you were a little under the weather, right? Was that what happened before?
I was after the conference. I think, it was a pretty packed conference, as you well know, and I got COVID shortly after that, so I'm pretty sure that's where I got it from. But it was pretty mild. Got over it in a few days.
Yeah, you and me both, man. You and me both. I got hit. Never had COVID before. I got hit for the first time at the conference, and I was like just recovering. And then I hit up a couple of other people there, and they're like, "Hey, man, I'll talk to you later. I got COVID." I was like, "Man, that thing it got everybody, right?" But we're here, we're alive, and generally speaking, with a lot of this metaverse stuff, online immersive internet kind of things, for the most part, we're pretty safe. It's a pretty safe place.
Exactly.
I would love you kind of set the stage because for, I think, a lot of people, especially people that, are maybe a little bit older in the space or whatever it is, they may not really understand what Roblox is as a thing, right? Could you kind of just set the stage a little bit to just kind of describe a bit of how you would define Roblox as?
Yeah, of course. In fact, it's almost easier to say kind of what Roblox isn't. A lot of the time, I hear people calling Roblox a game. It's like, I've not played Roblox before, like it's a single experience. But what people have to understand is that it's millions of experiences. It's everything from like a small gathering where you have your friends, or like massive, first-person shooters or pet simulators or obstacle courses, all these other things. So it's really like a place where you can have a core identity and then bring that identity in and out of all these, like virtually anything you want. So, we're regarded as a metaverse company, and it's true because you can do practically anything. And that's only going to become more real as time goes on with their efforts in education, eventually work, and definitely play. So yeah, Roblox is a place where you could enjoy the metaverse and do virtually anything you want.
Yeah, I think that because when I say that, there's different groups that like claim the flag, right? And there's virtual reality people say, well, it has to be immersive, right? You have to have a headset on. Then in crypto communities, like, well, there has to be decentralized that stuff. It's like, okay, but really, it's like if you're talking about a thing that's got millions of experiences, there's so much development going on there, right? And it is really the workhorse is this enthusiasm for young people to be able, and a lot of the demographics is young, to be able to go in and create and share and participate. There's a crazy economy. I feel like you're like one half game engine, one half marketplace, one half like social experience. And I don't like, it's a very interesting system that you've put in place.
Yeah, absolutely. And like every other metaverse has their kind of angle and definition about it, but it's my opinion that the metaverse is one place and we're all kind of just pointing towards it. But it kind of can come across as like, this is gonna be really cheesy, but like the Anchorman kind of fight where all the different
Yeah.
channels are kind.
Uh,
So
the
it's
Spanish
like
news
everyone's.
is coming in.
It's like it's all TV, right? And I think in this case, it's kind of like I don't know what interoperability is going to look like, or how all of these metaverses kind of connect
Yeah.
or overlap or anything like that. But
So I
yeah,
hope
we're all
someone makes
kind
a
of.
meme. I really want someone. I could see that in my head. Please, somebody make a meme of that.
Yeah, I've got Photoshop skills. Maybe I'll tackle that after we're done. But yeah,
Well, it's beautiful to see that, and then you can tell like the journey. I mean, I'd love to get just a little bit of your journey too, leading up to this, because I mean, you do have a background with HTC Vive and other things. And can you talk to
yeah,
me what led you to being the the head of the acquisition management for Roblox?
yeah. So like my career has always been in games. There was a bit where I was kind of doing something non-gaming related, but I've kept the story of my career linear and making sense, right? Like I haven't pivoted necessarily. Everything's all kind of added up to where I am today. And most recently, before Roblox being an HTC Vive, this was like the most exciting thing I could do in games, like virtual reality, and like working at a company who is got such a reputation that HTC Vive has, and working on an immensely cool part of the platform. And so when the opportunity came to kind of come to Roblox, I had to really think like, well, this could be the kind of the coolest thing that I could be doing, like working on the frontier of like the metaverse, and like
Mhm.
particularly on a team that's like on the developer relations team at Roblox, which is just like a really really solid team doing such cool things. Like my team exists because the game fund exists, and we're you know funding projects and things to push the platform and age up the audience. And I've said to myself before, I'm like, I probably have one of the coolest, most rewarding jobs in games right now. So yeah, that's. Yeah.
That's incredible. A couple of things of that. One, HTC Vive. You may or may not know him. Jason Ray. Do you know Jason
Oh
Ray?
yeah,
Yeah.
Jason's great.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, love
Jason,
Jason. I haven't spoken to him in a few months, but he's great.
it's been a bit, man. He's an old friend of mine. I've
Nice.
known him way back in the day. And we've had some relationships because I did some development over there. And yeah,
Hmm.
he's he looks really good these days. He's really fit, and
Oh, nice.
it's good to see him. And it's been a minute, but I don't know if he works at HTC anymore. I
He
think
doesn't.
yeah.
No, he moved on, and yeah, there were some, the pandemic. Through the pandemic, there were some reductions of the
Yeah.
staff, and my team had survived. I'm not sure exactly when Jason left, but yeah, he's not there anymore, and he's on to other things. But I think he's still within the virtual reality space to some degree,
Yeah, I
and I'd
wish.
love to catch up with him actually.
Yeah, dude. I love Jason, man. There's certain people that you see in the industry. It's funny, like when you go and you make friends with someone at a conference or whatever, and you don't see them for a while, and then you come back and like you see an old friend. That's why I was so excited, like the Awe conference. You come across like old friends like Jason Ray, and like, hey, buddy, how you doing? You just
Yeah,
just rolling
I,
dice though sometimes.
I know, I love it too, and that's. I mean, I'm certain it's not specific to our industry, but it's
Mm,
definitely a part of like the work that we do. And like the smallest connection can kind of turn into something fruitful later on, or just like lifelong friendships, colleagues I've had, particularly in my previous career roles, or even just very small interactions that have turned into kind of like business related opportunities. Like I love that so much about our
yeah.
industry, and that's a big part of what I do. I establish and maintain a lot of relationships, I create new ones, and yeah, it's so much fun for me.
That's great. Yeah, and one of the best things about our industry is like the verb to play, right? Everyone's like playing. There's work that gets done, but I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, you're playing games. You had an amazing thing you're talking about. One of your favorite games or
Oh,
experiences.
yes, and I have. Hold on.
Yeah,
It's because I didn't have the name
yeah,
when I did the panel.
sure.
Um,
So as you're
It's
looking it up,
called, yeah.
you're looking it up right now. I'm not going to say exactly what it is, but I'm going to have you unpack it. But he said it, and I think when a lot of people think about making experiences for the metaverse or whatever you want to call it, they're like, "I'm going to make the grandest thing ever. It's going to be this
Yeah.
new thing, and that's what's going to get everybody to love it because it's going to be so big and so amazing." And that's not always the case, right? And so,
Yeah. No, you're right. And sorry to interrupt.
yeah,
I
go for it.
found it. It's called Anyone Could Be Struck by Lightning at Any Time. That's the name. Now, you would never really name something like that if you were publishing to PC or
Yeah.
mobile or something like that. And but it's one of my favorite experiences. Absolutely. And you just kind of go into it. There's like a little island. It's fully raining,
Yeah.
thunderstorming, and you will get struck by lightning. And it's just one of those simple. It's almost kind of like an art piece more than
Yeah.
it is anything else. There's no monetization in there. There's no retention or progression or anything like that. But it just speaks to the breadth of things you could do in the metaverse, and particularly on Roblox.
Yeah.
Publishing is super easy. Building on Roblox is super easy. To make something small and silly that just people enjoy is like really, really low friction. So that's absolutely one of my favorite experiences.
Yeah, what I love about it is like, yeah, there's very little friction from the development with that to actually being able to publish on the ecosystem to be able to have that thing get ported out. Because of it's inside its own ecosystem. You can go from
Hmm.
creating, it's like if Unity and Apple and Android and PC all got together and had a baby that came from the internet. And it was born of cat videos and kids, like
Yeah.
It is, but it's amazing because that's the thing is I know as a developer, you got to take that, to port things to iOS and the update systems and how long it takes to be able to change things and iterations. You have a very low barrier of friction, which I think is actually very appealing as a developer. I don't know on your side of it, what makes it appealing for developers.
Oh yeah, I mean it's the stuff you get out of the box, right? The social, the distribution, because of the nature of our platform. You can create something in Roblox Studio, which is the software where you actually create things,
Mhm.
experiences, and then hit publish, and then within 15 minutes you're on PC, tablet, mobile, console. And so it's pretty crazy how quickly you can iterate and then make things available to users too. It's not like you have to make this whole polished big experience and whatnot. You could go public pre alphas if you really wanted to engage your audience and kind of like build something from there. And that's super special about Roblox, and I really really love that.
Well, it's yeah, and what's interesting now is that I think I don't know how old you are, but like for me, I'm in late 30s, almost in the 40s areas right here, and I think we try to there's a point where if you're younger, you're quicker to adapt to technology. You're quicker to pick it up. You're quicker to be open to it. You're quicker to expand it. And we kind of get like, I can speak for myself, get solidified in a certain area, right? And I have to go like, oh, well, that's just for kids. That TikTok and Roblox, it's just for kids, right? But if you could just speak a little bit to the scope of Roblox and how it's not just for kids because of X, Y, and Z, I would love for you to expand the possibilities in people's minds.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, I think a lot of the time the sentiment that follows Roblox is that it is for kids. They kind of see the blocky avatars or like the simple games, and they think, "Oh, that's for kids." But like a part of why my job exists is to convince people that it's not true. And the tech behind the studio and the platform is evolving every single day. And like we're greenlighting projects right now that are pushing all the tech that's available, physics-based rendering, all these kinds of things. And yeah, it's the opportunity to come to the platform is right now. So yeah.
That's beautiful. And let's talk about a couple of brands or things that got into the space
Mm.
that are a bit uncommon that would make you kind of shift the mindset of what's possible or who's going into the space.
Yeah, so you're seeing a lot of kind of big brand partnerships happen with the platform,
Mm,
and that's really great. You have like ALO Yoga, Spotify Island, Nike Land, all these kind of other things that are just kind of, proving that the opportunity to come to Roblox is right now and that it's great. And what my team is doing is we're trying to get like triple A studios to consider and come to the platform and to kind of demystify the opportunity to change perceptions and things like that. So I can I can't necessarily say which partnerships we're working on
Sure.
right now because some of them are still kind of being executed. But I can say that there are some really exciting greenlit projects coming down the pipe that I can circle back with you on. But yeah, it's
That's
great. It's really great. And yeah, so these AAA studios and these partners of ours are realizing how
yeah.
many people are on the platform, all the things that can be done to increase the quality with, little or smaller investment than you would typically do on PC or even mobile. And so yeah, that makes it really exciting.
Two pieces of that. How many? So, real quick questions is how many people are currently on the platform? Your monthly active users or whatever stats you have around that, so they understand the scope of Roblox.
Yeah, I think the last time I saw monthly actives, it was over 250 million or something like that. But I can say more accurately that daily active users are around 55 million. So it's my favorite stat because I'm just like, are you joking me? That's
Yes.
so crazy. And it benefits the overall metaverse that
It's,
we're kind of flat first,
yeah,
because honestly, there's going to be plenty of people to see this who are more like on the VR, AR
yeah,
side, XR side. That are just like,
yeah,
okay, well, great. When is Roblox going to be, pardon me, in VR? And the answer to that is soon. I mean,
yeah,
when you step out of the kind of like the VR world into kind of like the flat or metaverse kind of part that or our flat version of the metaverse part,
yeah.
um, it makes the VR pool seem super small, and the VR pool isn't necessarily that small, but it's higher friction, right? And so I think within the next year or so, I'm not really
Mhm.
exactly sure,
Yeah,
more and more VR devices are going to be compatible with our platform as a result of the work we're doing specifically for it. There are experiences on the platform right now that you can play in VR, and there
yeah.
are users that we're connected with who are making insane stuff. Um, but it's kind of like it's not like necessarily like an official kind of
I
thing.
understand,
So
but that's how it goes, especially in the VR space. I mean, from what I've seen, right? Because I've been in VR for about a decade, right? There was nothing.
mm,
There was no ecosystem. There was
no.
sneaker nets. There was mailing USBs to people to go rate games. Like that's what it was like for a while, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't even like it was 2019 or so. Like Oculus had no marketplace, right? There's no marketplace or anything. And then now they do like $1 billion in revenue, which is a couple of years later, right?
That's
So
crazy.
the rate of evolution for to make a space and to see that this is where, I mean, Roblox is where a lot of eyeballs are, and you're going to come out with this new thing. You kind of want to be where the puck's going, kind of thing, and you know
Yes.
it's super fascinating. And then looking at it from the perspective, talk me through just a little bit, like what's your like day-to-day thing like when it's like, so if there is a studio out there, AAA or just an indie studio or someone that wants to bring something to it, how do they approach you? What does it look like? Do they dox you on the internet, or what does it really look like for them to walk you through and start that relationship with you?
Yeah, I will fully make my LinkedIn available to anyone who seriously wants to pursue coming to the platform, big or small studio. I
Yeah.
think whether we fund the project or the studio or not,
Mhm.
I can helpfully articulate that it is still worthwhile to come to the platform. The fund really exists to specifically seize opportunities that wouldn't otherwise happen on their own. And so I'd be happy to connect with anybody that had just a general idea on a napkin. We can turn that into a formalized pitch deck, and then we can bring that through our greenlight process. And then let's see if at the various stages we can be fully approved to move things forward. There are some official posts about the game fund and the structure of which it kind of operates, but the floor of our funding is like 500,000, like
Mhm.
500,000. So if someone's like, "Oh, I have this project idea and it's worth like 300,000, for example," I'd be like, "Well, maybe it's not the scope or the scale that we're necessarily looking for. We're really looking for bigger projects that wouldn't necessarily otherwise happen." And so and somewhere there's a ceiling as well, but I think as a starting point, that's a really healthy place to begin. And again, I'd be happy to connect with anybody
That's
because that's
awesome.
my job.
Yeah.
And that's one of the sweeter parts about my job is I get to basically entertain pitch decks all day. So it's pretty great. It's a lot of fun.
That's awesome, man. Well, it's amazing too to see things from ideation to actual experience that people can have fun with, right? And to help that happen, right? You're making, imagination reality, which is super cool as a place to be, and I don't know, has anybody gone through like the funding that you've done? Are there ones that you've already funded that are actually out the gate and live that you can talk about at all, or not yet?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for asking.
Yeah.
Basically, some of the earlier projects we funded are on the platform already in early stages.
Yeah.
They'll hit their official full launches probably September, October, November. And then there'll be a steady cadence as we've been greenlighting and as projects kind of been getting into production. But a few off the top of my head would be Riot Fall.
Right.
And maybe I can give you links
Yeah.
afterwards or something like that. That's a first person shooter, and the alpha that's available on the platform is indicative of kind of where it's going, but behind the scenes, the level of detail, the gameplay and everything like that is similar to to things you would see on console. So that's really exciting. And there are a couple
Mm,
other ones like Neon Knights, which is kind of like a roguelite. So it's kind of similar to your kind of like Hades and things like that. And then thirdly, there's another game called Winds of Fortune, which is more of like your Sea of Thieves, kind of like seafaring adventure.
yeah.
But all of these games are, and all these projects are meant to kind of do, again, do things that otherwise wouldn't happen on their own. Like
That's
I
beautiful.
said, there's so many studios, big and small, already on the platform who are pushing the boundaries and who are creating experiences. So we're trying to, offer more into the ecosystem to push it even further than that.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, those sound great. I mean, Hades is an incredible game.
Oh yeah.
It's such a it grabbed me for a while, and I had to put it down and walk away. Usually, when you die, you're like, okay, I'm done for the night. Gonna call it. I'm
Yes.
gonna go on away, and we're gonna wipe it out. But that's beautiful because there was a depth with the narrative design inside there for all the actual back and forth with the NPCs and all that fun stuff. Like, so that's really cool that you're getting games like that out there. Um, is there a common mistake or something that often happens when people approach you, or something advice you would get, you see like common happen that you would give advice to somebody, before they approach you?
Yeah, I'd say one of the first things that comes to mind where it's just like, hey, well, this works good on Roblox. Let's do that. It's actually not necessarily a selling point because, like, well, you know what? There's actually like a dozen groups who are working on that genre already.
Mm-hmm.
If you're here to sell like an obstacle course or like a pet simulator or tycoon or something like that, those games crush on Roblox. But they're also plentiful and they're varied. And it's not like us investing in those kinds of opportunities are really going to like diversify or like push the envelope or things like that because the core audience is very keen and aware of what works and those things work really well. So this is an opportunity for developers not only to come to the platform or even for on platform developers to kind of like take things to the next level, but to do things a little bit differently. And
Mm,
again, that's what we're here to do.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Um, as people go through this, and by the way, if you just let you know, please share the show notes or the list of those games again. I'll put them inside the show notes, so anybody that's listening, they can go to the Heroes of Rally website, go inside of there, they go to the bottom of the link with the show notes below Duncan's bio. There'll be actually all the data there. So please feel free, just in case people are trying to take notes or rewind this or whatever, you want to make it easily available for people to go and have access to that. So just want to
Yeah.
throw that out there while we're talking about any other relative notes going through it.
Cool.
For right now you're talking about, so these games that aren't necessarily on the platform, but they're ones that are really pushing the boundaries of what's possible and things of interest. Are there anything in terms of genres or any fields, like, you said, okay, not tycoon, not this and things. Are there ones that you are actively looking for that you're interested in, that piques your interest, or is it just anything that really a dev team studio, AAA studio is passionate about?
We haven't necessarily had a super specific science to the pursuit of any specific genre,
Yeah.
but we have leveraged a lot of my team has leveraged a lot of our existing relationships and otherwise to pick out studios who we think would be a good fit for the platform, even just as a partner.
Mhm.
And then if they have existing IP, for example, that they could bring to Roblox, amazing. Or if they have new IP that they're working on, amazing. So it really has been an interesting path of discovery. And the more projects that we've greenlit, the more kind of genres we've satisfied. And that the further we get into the fund, the more like, well, maybe we need an experience like this, or maybe like, because we've greenlit
Yeah.
to date probably three diversified kind of like first person shooters. We have some asymmetrical horror games in there. And so it's like we're kind of satisfied on those. It's like what gaps are we missing now? And so that's kind of what we're trying to dig into as we're getting through the later stages of the fund.
Got it. Okay. Very cool. Very, very cool. Just can you talk to me just a little bit? Because I think this is fascinating. Like, how did Roblox get started? Like, what kicked that off? What was the genesis? I mean, it's like it goes from 0 to 55 million users, which is like it's like a sixth of the U.S. population, which is so it's crazy. But like, can you talk to me just a bit about what was the genesis, how to get started, and what was that tipping point that caused it to kind of boom?
Well, I'll speak to a few things about that. I mean, some people don't really realize is Roblox has been around for a long time. It's been around since like 2006. You're
Oh my.
quizzing me a little bit, but I think it's about 16 years.
Yeah, yeah.
And Dave Vizzucchi is co-founder and still the active CEO. And when it started, it was more of just like a physics-based kind of educational kind of platform. And then it was also there was a different term for the metaverse back then, and I can't remember what it was. It's like a coexisting kind of platform, something like that. It was kind of synonymous to what we call the metaverse now. So
Yeah.
Roblox has always kind of been a metaverse, and it's different now in a sense of there's just like the scale and the depth of experiences you find now is just it's so different, and the evolution of the tech as well. I will say, and I think this is my personal opinion, it's also true that like through the pandemic as well, we saw a massive surge of people coming to the platform as we've had to kind of like coop up indoors, particularly during shutdown periods. People were still able to connect through Roblox, and we saw a lot of growth through that, and we're seeing sustained growth even after the fact. So that's really great. And so I'm certain there are some other inflection points that I'm maybe if I look further back, but it was a big one, as far as not only the growth of the platform, but the growth of the company as well. And now as we're returning to office, everyone's meeting each other for the first time. There's so many more
Oh,
people than there
very
were,
cool.
and yeah, so it's great.
That's awesome, man. It's a cool thing to watch. You're an overnight success, 20 years in the making. So.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, honestly.
Well, that's incredible. And how do people like? I think it's a question just as a developer, right? What about optimization? So if I'm building a game, right, I'm building it,
Mm.
but it's going to go to iOS and Android, but I have this PC build, but I want it to be AAA and I want to be this. And then do they need to, when they're building things out, they need to figure out the control schemes for something that can work on. So do I need to optimize for iOS and Android and then scale upwards to what's possible with the PC? I understand like how to do that in Unity, but can you talk to me about like if people are trying to map out what that looks like, how do they cross controls, all that jazz?
Yeah, decisions, right? I mean, it's a needle more so than it is like you can do all the things perfectly. There's probably a way you can do things pretty well across
Mhm.
all, but optimizing for mobile and then pushing graphical quality in things on PC are not usually things that go hand in hand, obviously. So
Yeah.
it really depends on your approach. If you really wanted to push the platform and like max out the things you can do and you're kind of aiming more PC, well, obviously you're probably going to be alienating mobile a lot more.
Yeah.
So it really depends on the strategy, and the projects that we've even greenlit through Game Fund find themselves on kind of either part of the spectrum. Some are just simpler graphically, but deeper mechanically, and then that's easier to optimize for mobile. And then making sure the controls work for tablet, console, PC. That's a big nuance, right? To do it kind of like all at once. So it's a trade-off, and we're kind of diversifying our investment
Mhm.
risks by having a mixture, because
Mhm.
there's obviously a big contingent on mobile, and obviously we don't want to fully like alienate that, but we also kind of want to push things too. So we're as we go, particularly, we're making sure that we can hit as many devices as possible and make our experiences as available as possible, no matter the project. Because that, and this will relate back to VR, that's the goal for Roblox, is that you can access it from any device. So that will soon include, more specifically, VR headsets and things like that.
Woo!
So yeah, that's a long answer, but you get it.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, yeah, to extent, I mean, those are things to consider as people, when people go to build things out, they're like, oh, well, we'll just build this for the PC. And then you got to think, well, what about Android? What about iPhone? What about this? What about that? And so you got to cross platform it, and then you got to make sure, it all works. And, you talk about, physics-based rendering and all that jazz. And so you got to, optimize across devices. And so it was just something, I think it's in my mind. Then also coming from perspective of like, if people have experiences that are, say, like on Unity, then there's some sort of like, are you guys looking for, like if someone's built something on another platform, are you saying, okay, we only want exclusive deals, we only want things that are just unique to Roblox, or what does that look like?
We're not concerned about owning IP or having exclusives, because quite technically there are enough nuances to navigate on Roblox that even if you tried porting one-to-one your experience to Roblox, it's going to be a little bit different. So it's not like PS5 to Xbox, it's not going to be the same. So we don't necessarily say port or anything like that, as much as we'd say Robloxify. I don't necessarily like that word, but it makes sense. So
it gets the gist across.
Yeah.
Okay. Robloxify. Okay, I know the title. I now know the title of this podcast.
It's your call, man. Not mine.
No, man, it's good. It's very fascinating to me to kind of see it and find there's like this whole world of you're like, oh, what's Roblox? And you look up, you're like 55 million people. You're like, that's crazy, right? And you're really seeing the power of it. Where do you think like is there a like a holy grail, what I would call the holy grail, let's put it this way? It's a big flag in the sand on top of a mountain. Is there something that you or Roblox are trying to achieve by doing this? Is there a in-game kind of thing, like this is the mission and this is what we're trying to achieve with Roblox?
Well, one of the things that I think matters to my team and the company as a whole is that we're aging up. And that means a lot of things. I think we're growing up as a platform. So features are changing, the way we do things are changing, and that's always going to be the case as the platform evolves. So that's one part. Two is the audience is growing and also aging up, right? So we're 50% below 13 as well as 50% above 13. And so this is where people are starting to realize that there's plenty of experiences for the 18 to 34 crowd, and there are going to be many more experiences for that crowd as well. The traditionally PC crowd, the high fidelity graphics kind of crowd, things like that. So I think that's a big part of it. The scale, I would say broadly speaking, scale is probably the big flag on the hill, or whatever you want to call it, as per what the platform is aiming for. Tens of thousands of people in a single server, reaching billions, literally billions of users. These are real goals for the platform, and aging up and otherwise, this is what we're aiming for.
Got it. So if that's there's a couple ones right there. So one is talking about aging up because you're maturing, much like, for us, it was video games. Video games has aged up with us as we've gotten older. And so I totally get where we're going with that. But you're talking about two things: aging up and scaling, right? Those are two goals you got. With that, what are what I call dragons? What do you think are the biggest challenge that you have to face to overcome each of those holy grail items?
Well, I'm certain for the scaling aspect, there are technical answers that I simply don't have. It's probably infrastructure related or code related, something like that. But we can kind of surmise what stands in our way there. I think as far as aging up, it's really maintaining the strong aspect of civility on the platform and safety. Those are things that we care a lot about. And this year at some point we're going to be having more age restriction based kind of features to help us gate certain experiences from certain people. And this is really important. It's not necessarily that, we put our experiences kind of like through the ESRB. It's different. Like it's all it's just not the same. So, but we are working on those features, and as we're greenlighting projects that are more fit for maybe the 18 to 34 crowd or older audience, these things we're working on hand in hand.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's I think people that wish that they had some sort of metaverse. They don't consider what's the issues of trying to manage people and toxicity specifically.
Yeah.
And what have you seen? Because people are people, man, and they want to be free, and that takes a whole lot of forms of what that looks like. What have you tried to put in place to try to manage um, or limit the amount of toxicity that happens inside of the Roblox experience?
Yeah, I mean, similar to other platforms and just general experiences, right? We have a very robust moderation structure in place. Like
Mhm.
when it comes to text, for example, there are very little uh, bad things you can say without it just turning and being kind of like moderated out. And the platform is very, very protective of those things. So there are a lot of tools in place to flag behavior and automatic things to happen to root out language that doesn't belong in the space, for example.
Mm.
So, and it's great, and that's only evolving too, which is really, really great.
Yeah, and that something that, because I know I've built multiplayer VR experiences, and so part of the Unity developer primarily, we had things that were like profanity tools that we could get from the asset store and say, okay, this is a profanity tool, so if they type in beep, yeah,
Yeah.
it just knocks it out. And you can cuss on the show, by the way, it's okay. But as a
Oh,
point
thank
of
God.
fact, not a lot of moderation here. But if you look at it from this perspective of, is there those tools we talking about in terms of moderation tools, does that come out of the box? Is there or is there some sort of uh I know you have a store for
Mhm.
developers, but like, do they access that from the store, or is that out of the box? What does that look like?
That's out of the box, whether you like it or not, really. So, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, totes.
that, the things you get out of the box
Yeah,
are like the servers and social aspect of the platform.
yeah.
So you don't have to switch anything on. You don't have to do any coding for any of that stuff. By default, that stuff is available and built in. So that's another part which just makes it super, super easy
Yeah.
to produce on the platform.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and it's great to know, because those are concerns. Like, as you have people go through the experiences and stuff, you're just like, oh wow, how do I handle that? Um, Along this path though, you're talking about, like, as being a part of it. I know you talked about submitting decks and informations and coming with napkins and stuff like that. And I've got a napkin invest, right? Which is maybe
I mean,
it has happened. It has happened. But in terms of that is what you're saying. But I also do believe, like, if someone comes to me and they go, hey, I want to get into VR, what do I need to do? And I'm like, well, step one, buy a VR headset. How about that?
yeah.
How about get in, try some things? What do you recommend besides the come approaching you with a napkin or a fully focused deck, to get people acclimated to understand Roblox, to understand the community, to understand the space and everything else in that, and to really kind of step in and not, like, try to be a vegan selling me a burger. What is that like? Past experiences in my life. It's another story for another time. But yes, please. What would they do?
Play Roblox, full stop. Play it every day. If you're serious about coming to the platform, gain your own understanding of what people are doing. Play the most played experiences, figure out the lesser played ones. Like, get in, get in. It's not the same as console. It's not the same as PC or mobile. It's very much its own thing, socially and graphically and mechanically, everything. We have, fortunately for me, because I have so many of these conversations, is we have some really great reading material that I usually reserve for when I establish, conversations with
Yeah,
seriously interested parties.
yeah.
But it will give you the 101, the 201, and effectively the 301 of what Roblox is
Yeah.
and what you need to understand to fully get it. I mean, I was not the most familiar with Roblox before I came to the company, and even now, it's just like it's very much its own thing. So I'd say play it, really, really dive in, make yourself an avatar, buy stuff for that avatar, bring that avatar into different experiences, have fun. Like it's great, and gain familiarity.
Beautiful. Yeah. See, that to me is some of these critical items. I just want to kind of talk because some people, when they hear funds and things like, they get so excited, oh, this, but without the actual due diligence of, fall in love with the thing that they're trying to build on top of.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, even if there are developers who don't have an understanding of the platform, that's also why my job exists,
Yeah.
is to demystify, is to educate. And so I'm happy just to have those conversations in general too, to kind of explore the ponderings even of coming to the platform. I'm definitely here for that. And whether a deck is a napkin or fully graphically locked or whatever, I'll be here to entertain that too. Maybe one of the links that I give you is to our submission portal. But
Sure.
effectively, if someone has a direct line with me, that's fine too.
That's cool. Beautiful. And just talk about scope, size, exposure, things like that. I'm familiar with some of the stuff that you have. Can you talk to me a bit about a thing called Sonic the Hedgehog?
Sonic the Hedgehog, super hot right now. I mean, it's one of those experiences that was born out of the relationships that we have, not only through the brand partnerships, but through our own developer community. And, the mechanics of that experience are pretty familiar. I don't think it's necessarily like the deepest experience, but it's super fun. You just get to play as Sonic, rip around collecting gems, and it's been a huge hit. And then the live operations, the kind of like the continued life that goes into that experience, keep people coming back. So it's like it's been really, really great for the platform, and conversely, it's been great for the movies and the IP itself, right? I mean, that experience came to be because it really is like kind of also a promotional tool in a sense for, at the time, the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 movie, right? But it lives on its own because Sonic is huge, and I'm pretty close to your age. We played some of the original ones, guaranteed. So even I was in there ripping around, right? So it's a great time.
I can hear the music in the back of my mind as you're talking about it. Like I'm hearing the sounds, right? And it's really ingrained in our psyche as kids. And so that's incredible. And two pieces that one talking about, you're talking about live operations, which is basically things that are events going on inside of the game. You're talking about some of the live ops that happen inside Sonic or inside any of the other games, so that people understand, how the game can continue to live on versus just, I'm going to release the game and then I'm going to go, run off into the darkness.
Yeah, I mean, the tail end, the post-launch efforts that are put towards experiences on the platform are super important, because it maintains and sustains the engagement and the life of your experience, more so than what you would typically see on console, where like the core experience is absolutely vital, and then the live operational stuff is like maybe lesser important. It's certainly subordinate to the primary experience, but like things change and things can so rapidly iterate on Roblox. If the community is gravitating towards one feature or one thing, like the whole thing can kind of evolve in that sense. So it's super agile that way. It's super important to consider what the post-launch life cycle looks like for Roblox experiences, more so than other platforms. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's a big thing. And I know that like for most community building aspects, I know in the worlds of like game development and virtual reality and everything else, a lot of it's done on Discord, right? Where they get in, they meet there. Is Roblox the same thing, where Discord's kind of the home ground, or is there another place?
Yeah, there's a lot of people on Discord, and in the last, what was it, year and a half or so, I'm quizzing me a little bit again, but I think we not really.
It's a
but
podcast.
Yeah, it's all good. This is a quiz cat now.
Yes,
no, it's we had purchased Gilded, so we use Gilded for a lot of like communication with some of our developers and just different things. I'm not exactly sure how many of our developers use Gilded versus Discord, but like Discord is kind of like the most classic, and currently the most common usage of managing communities, right? There
Yeah.
are groups as well on Roblox to interact with, like, fan bases and things like that, to articulate updates and things too. So it's kind of varied, but
Yeah.
yeah.
It's crazy because I mean that makes sense. So, like ecosystem, just even the games and where like that or Discord, it makes sense, and you see these evolutions of people, of outside people. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to, with the podcast, make people aware and expose people that maybe they're more familiar with VR or the technologies or game developer or whatnot. How does the ecosystem of Roblox work? What does it look like? And what are other opportunities that people can get in? So if you look at these big movie titles, right, they make a famous game, they bring in the movie title, they bring it in. They're not the only ones. One of the other ones I did, which I think is crazy, it's crazy in a good way, and crazy in a good way, is Gucci. And what they
Oh,
did.
Gucci, yeah.
Can
Know
you
what?
talk me a little bit about Gucci inside Roblox?
It's so funny. I remember the first time I saw, it wasn't Gucci Town. Gucci Town came out recently, but there was an experience before that, Gucci Gardens, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And the first time I saw that, I was like, wow, Gucci on Roblox. That's so interesting. And, a lot of the time, I think you have, these brands that want to access kind of like a younger audience. And it's such a smart play to do that, and build that evangelism early. Or even if it's not Gucci, it's, there's a McLaren experience, there's an ALO yoga experience, there's a Spotify experience, there's a whole huge swath of brands that are kind of coming to the platform and kind of mixing in with everything else. So yeah, that's definitely an interesting one.
Didn't they sell the bag? It's like more expensive of the actual bag. Didn't they sell a more expensive? And I might be misremembering this, but the Gucci bag itself was more expensive in Roblox than the actual bag in real life. And they sold it
Yeah,
like that.
I think I remember what you're talking about, but definitely it's an opportunity for any of these brands, right, to sell digital goods. It's not like
Yeah.
they're NFTs or anything like that. Like, any user can have like a Gucci
Yeah.
bag or item for their avatar
Yeah.
on Roblox. And there is a lot of time outside of all the experiences. People spend a lot of time customizing their avatar because there's so much you can do, and it's not just blocky, what we call R6, because there's 6 points of articulation, right? And so the fun fact for you, there you go. It's like the blocky avatars. The blocky avatars are called R6 models because it's like head, 2 legs, 2 arms, and torso, I believe. And then now there's the R15, which is like a higher, jointed avatar. And the avatars that are coming out very soon, those will be even more so. So you can see, like, that's changing. And so for, back to Gucci and like UGC and metaverse items and avatar stuff, it's super vital for the platform.
Yeah.
And what makes Roblox work are the developers and users and brands and whatever that are creating for it. We don't do, typically, the vast majority, we do not do first party stuff.
Yeah.
The users create Roblox effectively. All the worlds that exist on Roblox, all the UGC stuff exists because users are on the platform creating stuff. So yeah.
That's awesome. With that being said, like looking at, because you're talking about users, not the first party. You guys aren't making. You're building the tools that people are now building the town with everything. And with that, is there anything that you've seen that, like like not necessarily the lightning striking game, but is there other experiences that are like unintuitive experiences that aren't game like, that are something else? Like, is there education in there, or
Oh,
is there other things going on in there that is not necessarily just a game, right? Is there something, other pieces that happen in there?
yeah, there are some games that you're not just kind of like running around as your avatar. Like, there's even a Tetris experience that I play once in a while, right? That's just kind of your classic Tetris. It's not like my avatar is interacting with anybody else. So you can do stuff like that that isn't like your typical 3D avatar running around kind of mechanic based experience, right? So there's a lot you can do to vary it. There's word puzzle games on the platform, for example, and things like that too. So yeah.
What do you say? Like, I think a lot of people, I feel that aren't in the space, they have a tendency to look from the outside in. And I actually did this. I gave a presentation to a whole group of people on, what is the metaverse, what's actually valuable, what's not valuable, right? And like I think Roblox is something on the order of the magnitude of like, and I said, like, would you invest in this? And I showed a picture of Roblox, right? And no one's hands went up except for one 12-year-old whose hand just went right up. And then everybody kind of peeked at him and they're like, what is this? And I was like, yeah, these guys do. And I think it's like 2 billion a year or something like that. I think some number, I don't remember what your revenue was last I looked at it. But I think you guys were,
I have that somewhere, but yeah,
47 billion valuation, $2 billion a year, something, some astronomical number. But a lot of people look from the outside in and they look, well, these things are blocky. They're not that we need photorealistic. We need this. We need this. Like, can you speak to me? What is true? What is myth? What makes sense? What doesn't to that fact?
I love that you asked this question because it reminds me of something somebody taught me a long time ago as far as game design principles go.
Yeah.
And it's like, if it's not fun with spheres and cubes, then it's probably not going to be fun with high fidelity graphics, right? I mean, you see it in the AAA PC games and mobile games or whatever, but like, just because there's high fidelity graphics doesn't mean it's fun. You want to know one of the top experiences on Roblox. It's called Tower of Hell, I'm pretty sure. And it's basically a circularly ascending, Tower of Hell, 30,000 concurrents as we speak right now. You're just an obstacle course going up. And really, graphically, I would say quite crude, but 30,000 users can't be wrong, concurrently anyway. So, that's where, by virtue of Roblox existing too, the minds of those 12-year-olds are going. It's just like, what's really fun? Well, look right there. Look from the inside out, and then you'll start to think about the investability of Roblox a lot differently, given the popularity of a lot of what you see on our platform.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things I feel in that way. When you said that fun with cubes and squares, I was like, yes, because because you feel it, right? And that's why you get in and playing it and getting up and going with it is so important. It's so important. Is there a place that you want to be, like, for yourself personally in Roblox? Is this for you where you like being the acquisitions content manager? Or is there another place that you have an eye on? Or is there anything that you want to hope to be able to achieve for yourself beyond where you're currently at?
I've been at the company for what feels like forever, but it's only been like 9 or 10 months. And
wow,
I think titles can change and compensations and whatever, that's all well and good. What matters most to me is that, like, I'm doing what I do best and I'm having fun while I'm doing it. And that is absolutely most true and truest now than ever before in my career. And I've had some fun in my career up till now, don't get me wrong, but the connections I'm making and the things that we're doing, and even just me telling the kid version of myself that I'd be entertaining video game ideas all day for a supermassive platform for hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever it is, it would blow his little mind. So I think if I'm to evolve in this role, it's just scaling up what I'm doing, being able to reach more people more easily, and thus being able to bring more people to the platform.
That's so epic, man. Dude, can you imagine telling your, I just thought about telling your childhood self, see, look, here's the deal. We're going to grow up, we're going to video games, and then we're going to play, and then people are going to want to build games.
Yeah.
They're going to tell me, and I'm going to tell them, here's money. Go make an awesome game more inside my ecosystem. That is so, man, there is one thing I've noticed. I have nieces and nephews, and the young ones are really obsessed with Roblox, and they see potential, they see hope. They're like, oh man, I can make this on Roblox. I can not only build this reality, but I can make Robux, right? I have the ability to do that, right? And they're very inspired, and there's a lot of energy behind that type of ecosystem. Do you have any, like, I won't call it success stories, but any stories of young people doing well in Roblox by being able to get in and be able to do that? Something that, like, if my young niece Kavi is listening to this, very young and wants to be inspired, is there anything you'd say about that?
Open Roblox Studio right now and
Yeah.
figure it out. Honestly, I think there's a real beauty to Roblox because there's a lot of success stories in regards to, oh, I grew up on the platform and now I have a full-fledged studio that's sustainable. Like those stories exist. Full Flower, Wonderworks, the list goes on of people who have and are making a living doing this. When you and I were kids, wasn't necessarily the same level. There wasn't the same
Yeah,
level
sure.
of tools available for us to make stuff as distributable as it is now, and to get like tens of thousands of players to your experience and to build something and to make it profitable and these things. It's totally possible now for someone that's young to at least figure it out. Teach yourself design and fail hard and often and get better at it because you are young and you have time and this is super cool. And yeah, so for those who kind of want to get their feet wet with building worlds and building games like that, Roblox is an easy start, and it comes at my highest recommendation.
For sure. It's fun for me because I was popping on YouTube watching some of the videos of how to get started and stuff, and just I hear like a 10-year-old kid. He's like, "Hey, here's what you need to do. You just move this over and you move this."
I know.
I was like, man, oh, back in my
What
day.
the hell? What the hell was I doing when I was 10 years old? I cannot recall specifically. Probably riding my bike around, but it wasn't coding. It
No.
wasn't doing stuff. And there have been tools. Unity's been around for a long time. Game Maker's been around. There's lots of programs and stuff you can use to learn the different principles of making games and experiences and all these things. But yeah, Roblox gives you a lot up front just to cover a lot of the basics for you to have an easier way of putting all of these things together. Whether you start 3D modeling in a different program or coding in a different other program, it all kind of comes together in Roblox.
I love it, and I've seen it, and it's an incredibly exciting thing. It's also, I think, something that's it's like a dark horse, or I don't know the terminology of it, but it's one of the things that like you don't know if you're not that 12-year-old who's raising his hand in the audience, you don't know what's really happening behind there. And I hear a lot of people speaking out of turn of like, hey, it's got to be this, it has to be high fidelity, it's got to be all these things, right? When really it's this things that are fun, it's the things that are social, it's these magic moments. Do you have any magic moments inside of Roblox that when you think about it, it like makes you smile, or any things that you can think of in there that you can really illustrate the point of the magic of Roblox?
I mean, just speaking from where I sit,
Yeah.
like I'm on the developer relations team and we have a lot of really great relationships that we maintain that I'm learning about being newer to the platform, of like who we work with, who's doing the most fascinating work on the platform. And you see it in the accelerator programs and all this and all these things. But through the game fund, I think what moves me the most is when I say that, hey, your project has been greenlit and we're going to move forward, and we're going to start this huge, long, fruitful relationship, and it's going to be great, and we're going to help you every step of the way. And that's just like, it's so great. And some of these projects aren't not even seeing the light of day yet. It's only going to get better, and I love it a lot.
That's beautiful. And it's an amazing place to be. It's an amazing time that we live in. And this to me is like a true, people hate using the word metaverse of an experience. It truly is a place where millions of people are having these shared memories that are connecting, they're learning, they're growing, and it's also creating a lot of opportunities for these young kids and actually new companies coming into the space, which is, I think it's critical, being able to provide opportunities for people, back in the reason why ports are so like the reason why San Francisco is so successful, it was a port and it had gold and people could come to that port. And what I think is amazing, you're providing all of these opportunities in the space. So and we're going to start coming towards the end here, just so people know, what are some of the different roles or things that people can do at in Roblox, right? What are some of the different things that they could do if they want to kind of level up their skills and get good? You talked about opening up the studio. What are some of the things? One's design, one's code. What other things are out there?
Yeah, I'd say even just being a good producer would be fine, like having an understanding of kind of all the general goings on of what it takes to make an experience. That's kind of the route I took. I got a game design kind of based education, and then I got into marketing, and then it was kind of content management, and my path eventually led me to, where I am now. And I think it's really just there's a lot of ways. I would say if you have the time and the resources or whatever to pursue something, I would definitely learn how to code. Like if I were to be given the opportunity to go back and say like, oh, you know what, like I should probably spend more time or like figure this out, I'd probably learn how to code. And what excites me is all the resources that exist now, Roblox and otherwise, to kind of learn that aspect, because it's so core to so many things in this modern day world as just a skill. And as far as it relates to Roblox, I mean, if you're an art person, make art, like make layered clothing, make 3D models, jump in and do that. If you're a coder, you can still find your way there. If you have great ideas and you want to kind of bring it together, maybe you're a designer, like start digging in and doing your own research and figuring it out, and guaranteed there's a path forward for you on Roblox.
Love that. And what that makes me think about when you said that, and this is where we're coming towards the end here, is you talked about marketing, right? Because there's all this. How do people market Roblox when there's millions of things to choose from? What is it? How do people get people to try Roblox games experiences?
Yeah, so there are a few different ways, but given that Roblox is its own kind of platform, we have our own kind of like advertising system within the platform. So you have kind of like ads for games that you would spend Robux on to kind of guide users towards your experience. And I think, not looking at any charts or anything, but guaranteed there's like an inflection point for when your game picks up steam, people like it, and then it kind of gets easier from there. But that's kind of one of the beauties as well, is that there are so many people on the platform. Getting a lot of eyes and a lot of a lot of users to your experience early on is totally achievable and totally possible. And I don't think that for that very much expense either. So that's one of the beautiful things too. And then you just have community management stuff, whether you're using Discord or Guilded or the groups on Roblox too. Like, a good game, whether it's ephemeral or not, will pick up steam and it will get users. And then as long as you're maintaining a good life cycle and you're evolving your content as things go, then yeah, things will work out.
That's beautiful. This has been fantastic, super enlightening, and really exciting about what's coming up, what's around the corner, what's already here that most people don't know about, and then what's coming around the corner for this new world and universe that we live in. It's a very exciting time. Is there anything you'd like to let people know about before you tell them how to get a hold of you and more about what you do?
Yeah, whether you're funded or not through the Game Fund, you can still talk to me about learning what it takes to come to the platform, whether you have a small project, a medium project, or a large project. My team is called the Community Expansion Team, and so our roles exist to broaden the developer pool. So if you're a AAA developer or a AA developer or a III developer off platform, I will show you the way to come to Roblox and establish a pipeline that is fit for the metaverse.
That's awesome. Duncan, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate you chatting. I really appreciate you making it work. I know we had some technical difficulties going through this service, and it was a little challenging, but you handle like a champ, and I appreciate you being on the show, brother.
Hey, we made it work, and thank you so much for having me. You've been a gracious host, and looking forward to when we talk again, man.
Absolutely, brother. Have a blessed and beautiful day. I'll catch you later.
Yeah, see ya. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Heroes of Reality podcast. Check out heroesofreality.com for more episodes. While you're there, you can also take the Heroes quiz to find out what kind of hero you are. Or, if you have a great story and want to be on the podcast, tell us why your hero's journey will inspire others. Thank you.